Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing really well. I have not been doing that well, honestly. I have been having a couple hard days, but this day I woke up and I really just wanted to turn things around as much as I could and have the best day possible. I woke up and I had had enough of looking at the disgusting floors the way they were. You could literally see like splatter marks from where things had been spilled and not cleaned up that well. But it happens, you know, we spill stuff sometimes and we don't always have time to clean it up to the best of our abilities. So I really wanted to make sure that I took care of it today. I wanted to work kind of top down so that if anything ended up getting on the floors, I wouldn't be having to clean them over and over again. This plan was slightly counterintuitive because I ended up having to clean it again anyways, since mopping just ended up bringing a bunch of stuff that was stuck to the floor off of the floor, so it ended up needing re-swept and vacuumed and then remopped. But I had the best intentions, and that's really what matters. So I started out by cleaning the counters, wiping them down, and then I got started on putting away the dishes. I was pretty proud of myself for this because at this point of the morning, it had only been like maybe 10 or 15 minutes since I had woken up. And if you don't wake up before your kids, you might understand how that can be a little bit stressful sometimes because you yourself don't really get much of a chance to wake up before your kids do. My kids usually wake me up, and so I'm like, go, go, go from the very beginning. I try to make the best of it, but this morning I ended up just starting to be productive first thing in the morning so that I didn't even let myself get stressed out. I just wanted to get it done. After I ended up sweeping everything up into the center of the floor, I dropped the mop handle and spread all of the stuff that I just swept up everywhere. So, off to a great start. But once I was sweeping, I noticed that there was a bunch of stuff underneath here that was like stuck on. And so I grabbed the vacuum and the little precision attachment and decided just to go at it and try and see how much I could get up. There are a lot of aspects of this kitchen that really show its age and its wear. The previous tenants must have been really just loosey-goosey in this kitchen because there's a lot of places that are interestingly filthy, such as like the blinds are coated in like a yellow orange filth. And I haven't really figured out how to clean those best yet, so I kind of have just been letting them be. But once I figure out how to take the blinds down, I'll be able to clean them hopefully. And then underneath the cabinets, you can see there's like 2 or 3 inches of space where they have like baseboards. I think they're called baseboards, but they're like really, really dirty under there and they're super uneven. So I did my best cleaning them out, but it is what it is for now, and hopefully soon I'll be able to take a little bit more time and put a little bit more energy into getting those super clean. It's kind of early for me to be doing all this movement. I'm okay walking on this right now because it's definitely gonna need a second pass. Mopping just like lifted up all this stuff that was stuck to the floor, and so now it's kind of just like all over. So once it dries, I will. I'm out of breath. Once it dries, I'll vacuum it or sweep it and then do it again. For now though, I'm gonna wash my hands, get this silverware put away, and then clean the counters because if anything falls on the floor, then I can just vacuum it up before I mop again. While I was mopping, I realized that these counter cabinets are really disgusting as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna spray them down so that they can soak before I go and wipe everything down. These cabinets are 1,000,003 times better than the ones we had at our apartment, but they are dirty. They're coated in a couple layers of paint, so they're definitely old, but I really like them. I think they have a lot of character, but it's kind of just difficult getting them clean. But I just spray them with an all-purpose cleaner and wipe them down with a wet rag, and that's the best I can do for now. They are much better than they were, and that's really what I care about. I think you'll be happy to hear that I've been doing really well at keeping up the dishes. It might have something to do with the fact that we've had unseasonably dry weather. Today it's back to gray and I haven't done the dishes yet, but hopefully, not hopefully, I will definitely get the dishes done in a bit after I'm done with this voiceover. I just really wanted to talk to you all and take some time to work on this video. Some mornings obviously go smoother than others, and sometimes my kids are fighting or they're just like whiny, or they're, they are instantly hungry. And so sometimes I don't always get the chance first thing in the morning to start being productive. And sometimes my mental capacity is less than other days. And this day was actually a really good day because my kids woke up and they were getting along, which is rare, but they were getting along and they were playing on their own. I was able to get them some food before I started working, and then I knew that I wanted to start baking. I know that when I'm baking bread, a lot of the time is hands off, and so once I get it started, I can just leave it be to rest and rise and do all the things it does. But I was looking around and I was just really kind of already a little bit overwhelmed by the state of the kitchen. I have been keeping it pretty clean overall, but the floors were really, really bad and they were really distracting because I could see everything when I looked down, and it was just kind of off-putting. So I knew that before I started, I wanted to get the kitchen to a place that I was happy with and content with so that I could feel better about keeping it clean. I also ended up cleaning out this utensil container because it had a bunch of nasty crap in it, and I feel a lot better that it's not all that stuff is hanging out with our utensils that we used to cook with. Once the counters were all wiped down and everything was good to go, I was finally able to start on the bread, and I felt really, really accomplished at this point because it was only like maybe 10 o'clock, 10:15 in the morning, and that was a good day, a good start to the day. I'm gonna go ahead and get the sandwich bread started. So I have 2 and around 3/4 cup. This measure doesn't have a 3/4 cup line, so I kind of just eyeballed it. So I got my water in there. That was 2 and 3/4 cup water. I need to add 1.5 tablespoons of instant yeast. I don't have instant yeast, I have active dry. But that's okay because all we need to do is just bloom our yeast before we go ahead and start mixing. Okay, and then I'm going to add my 1/4 cup of honey because it's going to take me forever to get it out of here because it's semi-crystallized. So, and with the yeast, you're just waiting for it to be bubbly. Then you know your yeast is ready to go and it's alive. By the time I get all this in here, our yeast should be plenty ready. Okay, so I'm just gonna get that right in there. Because it is a little bit crystallized, it's gonna need some time to melt in that warm water. And then I'm going to add some salt. It calls for 2 teaspoons. I don't know how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon, but that was about 3/4 of a tablespoon. That was Redmond real salt over here. Redmond real salt is delicious. It is mined in Utah, I'm pretty sure, just like natural salt. But it's really good. It tastes really, really good. It's very much less salty than like a traditional table salt, so you kind of need more of it than you would expect. We got our salt, our honey, our yeast, and now we're gonna start adding our flour. This recipe calls for 6.5 to 8.5 cups of flour, but it says to start with 3. Ooh, that's more than 1. That's more than 1. Okay. Okay. That was about 3. 2 heaping cups and 1 scant cup. So around 3 cups. It's supposed to come together and start pulling away from the sides. I got a little helper, so hopefully you can still see. But just make sure I scrape down the sides and let everything else incorporate. I could tell that there was still honey on the bottom. So I'm gonna add 2 cups of whole wheat flour. Fold it, and then I'll tell you when to add it. Don't, just hold it, okay? Don't move it. Okay, go ahead, put it in. Good job. Oof, good job. Come on, mister.
It's so slimy.
Okay, go ahead. Put it in there. Good job. Tap it out. Okay, so now we're at around 5 cups of flour.
Yeah, cup of flour.
Cup of flour, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna add 1/4 cup of avocado oil. You can use whatever oil. Okay, put it in there. Good job, sweet girl.
It's not
Not too loud. We're gonna make sure that the whole wheat flour gets mixed in before we add the other 1 or 2 cups of flour, depending on what we need. I know whole wheat flour absorbs moisture differently. So this one, it's actually starting to come together, so we might need less flour than I think. Because it's starting to form a ball already. You can't really see it over the hair, but maybe you can kind of see how it's starting to form a little bit of a ball. It's not pulling away from the edges just yet. But we're just gonna let this go. Mix.
So gooey.
Gooey. Yeah, it's very gooey.
Yeah. It's so sticky.
Very sticky.
Yeah.
This was mixing for a while. Now I'm just gonna finish it off and add the rest of the flour. We're at 5 cups. It calls for 6.5 to 8.5. So we're gonna start with the minimum, which is 6.5. 6.5. So I'm gonna let this sit here for just a few minutes while I work on my sourdough, and then once the sourdough is ready to go in the fridge, I'm just gonna start this up and let this knead for a few minutes, but I wanna let it rest for just a couple minutes to kind of absorb some of that water. Okay, here is my sourdough. I have grout tiles, like grout in between the tiles, so this little silicone mat is very helpful, because the idea of cleaning the flour inside those grout lines kind of grosses me out. Yeah, I don't know. I have these. These are called Banneton baskets, and they just are baskets that hold your loaf that's shaped. They come with cotton liners, like this. So to prepare these Banneton baskets, I need to flour them. And if you're an expert level sourdough baker, you probably use rice flour for this step, because your dough is not going to absorb the rice flour. I am a novice, however, so I'm just going to use all-purpose. And we're just going to kind of give that a little dusting. Okay. As well as our work surface here. I'm going to turn my dough out onto my surface. And then you're just going to stretch the edges and pull them to the middle, just to create a smooth surface. I can't remember if this is 1 loaf or 2. Okay, so this is just one loaf. I'm gonna double this next time because I have two, so I could be using 2 at a time. What I'm gonna do is bring this over here. I'm going to spin it towards myself with my hand to create that tension, I think. I don't know. Okay. That seems good enough. Now I'm gonna put my dough ball in my Banneton basket, and I'm actually just gonna cover it with this piece of cotton here. So I'm gonna let this sit out for 10 to 15 minutes. The Farmhouse on Boone recipe, and she says that that will help it not stick to the tea towel or the cotton liner. So I'm gonna do that and see if it works. And then we're gonna put this in the fridge for 12 to 14 hours or something. Hold on. I still have to read a recipe every time I do this because I don't remember. 12 to 15 hours. That'll put me at 11 p.m. So that's not gonna happen. We're gonna have to leave it in the fridge till tomorrow, unfortunately. This is what the sourdough loaf ended up turning out like. It turned out beautifully, and I didn't get a lot of footage of it, but I just wanted to show you this little B-roll clip of how the sourdough turned out. So I fed my starter last night, and it's all bubbly. I'm actually gonna get another loaf going because I don't want to do this so much all the time. And I'm actually gonna double this recipe so I can get 2 more loaves. And maybe I'll be able to put some in the freezer. I'm gonna grab my food scale because this has weights, which I love. Definitely don't have enough for 2. Okay, so this part is a little bit confusing because I ended up getting a call from my husband, and so I was kind of just winging it as I went. But what I really wanted to do was start another loaf because I don't want to be making bread every single day, and if I make a single loaf, it's not going to last very long. And we have 3 adults in this house, and we eat a lot of bread sometimes. So I weighed out all the starter that I had left, but I was looking at the wrong measurement for one. So I definitely had enough for 1 loaf, but not enough for 2. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna get my starter going again and I'll make more loaves tomorrow. So I thought that I would make a waffle recipe with the rest of my starter that I had because I didn't want to waste it or have it be going in the fridge as discard to use later. Pause. I'm gonna show you what the sandwich bread ended up looking like after it was ready to start rising. This is our bread dough, our sandwich bread. I'm just gonna spray it with, I don't know, some Pam, just so the top doesn't dry out. Sorry, my husband called me, so I've been on the phone. And then I'm gonna cover it with one of these little plastic hairnet thingies. It's not actually a hairnet, but pretty much. And then this is gonna sit until it doubles in size. About an hour. It's pretty warm in here this morning, so shouldn't be too long. So we're gonna see if we can find maybe a waffle recipe that uses less starter. So I found a recipe for sourdough waffles. So the recipe I had looked up was the Farmhouse on Boone sourdough recipe for waffles, and it called for eggs and sourdough starter, oil, sugar, and salt, I think. I didn't have eggs, but I did have frozen bananas and strawberries, so I thought, I'll try that and see if it works as, a binder to keep it together. And then I realized I thought that her recipe called for flour, but it didn't. So I was like, that doesn't feel right. So I added a little bit of flour to mine. I think I added a cup of flour, as many strawberries as you saw, and the rest of the ingredients that the recipe called for: baking soda, oil, sugar, and salt. And they turned out really well. As I was cooking them, though, I decided just to wipe down the cabinets because I really wanted to be efficient with my time. I made the waffles. I ended up just making it my own. I don't have eggs. They turned out pretty good. I wiped down all the cabinets, and my waffle maker is still kind of hot, so I can't really put it away right now. Oh, it's heavy. That's what our bread looks like. I got my loaf pans all washed out. One thing I want to tell you is that you need to be careful with those pans if you're using the same kind of Pullman pans that I am, because if they get put away with any moisture on them, they're gonna rust. So the rest is pretty surface level-y and wash off really easily, but just make sure they're fully dry before you put them away. It's best to dry them with a towel before you let them air dry all the way. This recipe makes 2 loaves. And I'm just going to roughly split this in half. Yeah. And then what you're gonna wanna do, just like we did with the sourdough, you're just gonna bring all the edges in to make a flat edge. And I usually stretch it out. And then I'm going to roll it up, kind of like a burrito. Pull the edges in. And then pinch the ends so that the seams stay nice and closed. And then I'm just gonna kind of stretch it out. Okay. And then I'm gonna just take it, kind of wiggle it, and then put it in my Pullman pan so that it is the same length as my pan. I'm gonna do the next one. And once that is done, we will put the lids on them and let them rise again. In about 20 minutes, I'll check on them and then I'll start the oven preheating. And then I'll wait until they are about an inch from the top of the pan. And then I'll put them in the oven. I got busy playing blocks with the kids, but this is what the bread is looking like. Still got like 2 inches to the top. I'm gonna preheat the oven now. Yeah, I'm just gonna preheat the oven to 375. While that is preheating, I'm gonna get these little waffle squares. I'm gonna break them up so that they're like smaller. So I'll just pop them in the toaster. But I'm gonna get these in the freezer for some meal prep. These did turn out really good though. And these need to be fully cooled before you try to put them in the freezer or they will stick together. And I'm not gonna squish any air out right now because they'll probably stick together if I do. So I'm just gonna put them in there like this, and then I will, when they're fully frozen, I'll squeeze out any air. These waffles turned out really good. The flavor was amazing. They were not a crispy or like crunchy waffle. They were more of a chewy, like a chewy waffle. And so if that's not your thing, you wouldn't have liked them. But I like them and I think they turned out pretty good. I definitely think that reheating them in the toaster is going to be the best option because they'll get a little bit crispy on the edges, and I think I'm going to like them and my kids are going to like them. After the waffles were done and put away and my bread was going for a second rise, I wanted just to take a few minutes and clean up after myself. I think that's been really important lately. Along with cleaning up as I go, I'm also cleaning up after myself once I'm done. And I've noticed my kitchen is a lot cleaner. Who would have thought? It's been a lot more easy to maintain. And as someone who is pretty much cleaning my whole house all the time, I've been trying to find the balance between cleaning each room and figuring out how to keep them somewhat maintained so that they're easy to maintain. Like I was saying, I don't want to have to spend a whole day cleaning one section of my house. I'd rather just spend 20, 30 minutes, if that, picking up an area of my house. And so that's kind of something that I'm learning to navigate. This is my first real house that I have lived in that is pretty much just my house. My mom lives here. Yes, she lives with me, but her room is her sanctuary, and that's where she spends most of her time. I live in the main house with my kids, and I decorate it and I clean it, and yeah, so my mom shares the rent, obviously, but she chooses to not interact with this main living space as much as some people might think. So it is pretty much just my house that I take care of, and so that's okay with me. And I invite her to come hang out with us whenever she feels like it, and it works for us. But having said that, it's still the first larger space that I'm learning how to keep organized and clean and find balance in that. Alright, this is what they look like.
They look tight.
Nice and high. About an inch and a half. And these are going to go in the oven at 375 with the lid on for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to check them, take the lid off, and then let them brown up a bit. How beautiful. That's gorgeous. I'm going to take them out of the pans because if you leave them in their pans while the pan is still hot, you're going to get condensation on the side of your bread, which, one, soggy bread. Two, when you try to put it away, you are running the risk of having mold from a super moist environment like that. They turned out amazing. They're gorgeous. Look how good it turned out. Try it. Make it. Bye.